Dr. Pietro from 72 Dragons. Generation Z, where they stand regarding COVID and vaccines. Known by a lot of different names like Generation Sensible in the UK, Gen or Zoomers in the US, Genz in India, and Centennials in Russia. All of these are referring to the same generation, Generation Z or Gen Z. Generation Z is the demographic cohort succeeding millennials and preceding Generation Alpha. Researchers and media use the mid to late 1990s as starting birth years and early 2010 as ending birth years. Most members of Generation Z are children of Generation X. Generation Z is becoming more critical each time they join the workforce. They're changing the status quo and bringing a new perspective to work, their communities, and lifestyle in general. Businesses are watching their purchasing patterns. Politicians are watching how to impact their choices when voting. In public health, we're watching how Generation Z will affect the health status of the individual and community, which can be local, regional district, and now includes large virtual communities worldwide. Before the pandemic, the early Generation Z population were just stepping out of their teens and entering adulthood. For members of Generation Z, lives that had been focused on school, college, sport, stopped abruptly when the pandemic hit in 2020. Many things which were normal for Generation X and millennials were suddenly disrupted because of COVID-19, like how they live, how they communicate, how they study, traveling with vaccine certificate for proof, working from home, etc. Everything was changed overnight. Generation Z is also facing issues in education. Many had to complete their schools and universities online. Because of transformation, occupational, and long-term mental health perspective, Generation Z's learning has taken different forms throughout the world. It dwells into what Generation Z has acquired as a result of this educational change and how it will affect their future aspirations. There was a lot of concern about blood clots, issues related to AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson vaccines, as you might remember from the news, which were extremely rare but were seen in younger individuals. This might have an influence on the rate of younger people taking the vaccine. Fortunately, people are changing their minds about vaccines when given the proper knowledge. Apart from this great shift, Generation Z is ready to draw systemic implications from how political leaders have handled the pandemic in their respective countries. They also know that after COVID-19, they still have the great war of climate change to fight, and many other social justice issues. Generation Z, when asked to identify their two primary sources of news, the majority of this cohort named Instagram 29%, YouTube 22%, and Facebook 15%, and TikTok is in the rise. The study also revealed that less than 20% of Generation Z catches up with the news through traditional mediums like radio or newspaper, and only 2% don't stay informed at all. Data points that we should keep in mind. Generation Z spend 8 hours or more a day online. 95% of teens report they have a smartphone or access to one. Over 32% of Generation Z transactions happen on a mobile device. 30.8% of Generation Z would like to receive emails from brands a couple of times a week. 55% of Generation Z use their smartphones for 5 or more hours a day. 33% of Generation Z were persuaded to buy something after seeing it on social media. 43% of Generation Z would participate in a product review. Good company ratings and reviews make 62% of Generation Z feel comfortable to buy. 72 Dragons values the connection to Generation Z and is working in becoming a positive influencer to this generation. There's no clear path, but we are working to stay relevant and relatable to Generation Z. Thank you.